Diary of Dark One's Son is a look into the thoughts, opinions, and experiences of a young black man who is wrestling with the tough task of trying to make something out of himself in a very racist and hateful environment. It covers in detail the thoughts of a man as he observes and eventually learns how to cope and deal with the world around him. It is a story of a man who, while beset with many obstacles, learns how to overcome them in order to accomplish his goals and aspirations. This book is not for the faint of heart, and the opinions that are shared in this book can be deemed very offensive to some readers. If you think that you will be offended by the opinions shared in this book, the answer is simple. This is not the book for you. This book is merely the opinions of one man, and it should be taken as such. However, if you really wish to gain insight into the thoughts of a young black male in today's society, then look no further. Read this book. Excerpt from the book. From the chapter, Am I Visible or What? One day when I was walking home from school, I came across this other brother who was walking my way. In his eyes, I could see the sadness, the same sadness that was in mine. I knew exactly what was going through his mind too. He was feeling like an absolute nobody. How did I know, you ask? Because I was feeling the same way at the moment right when I walked past him. Have you ever felt, if you are a black man reading this, that you were invisible to the world? Not because you want to be, but because people refuse to acknowledge your presence. Read more when you purchase this book. This book can be purchased from lulu.com.
Welcome back to the African Diaspora News channel. My name is Richard Sudan. We appreciate you tuning in. Please like and subscribe and support the platform. So there's a case that I think we need to keep covering here at the channel, and that is the case of Casey Goodson. Casey Goodson. Now, some of you will remember this case from last year. Who was Casey Goodson? Casey Goodson was a 23-year-old black man in the prime of his life, and he was shot dead by white police officer Jason Meade, who is still free and who as yet hasn't faced any charges. And this took place in the city of Columbus in Ohio. Now, I want to first give you a bit of brief background on what happened leading up to Casey Goodson's killing. So on December the 4th, Casey Goodson had been attending a dentist appointment, and he was on his way home, and he'd been to a Subway sandwich shop. Now, Casey Goodson was basically stalked by Jason Meade, and Jason Meade was a former Franklin County Sheriff deputy who basically followed Casey Goodson back home. And upon entering his grandmother's home where he was staying, Casey Goodson was shot 6 times in the back by Jason Meade, and he was shot dead. Now, Casey Goodson at the time was shot in front of a couple of his siblings, and I believe also his grandmother, and he had a Subway sandwich in his hand at the time. Now, the lawyer for Jason Meade alleges that Casey Goodson, who had a legal firearm permit, was pointing his gun at Jason Meade. Now, there's no witnesses to corroborate this, and of course, the family and the family lawyers refute this. But one of the first things I want to mention here is that, the Jason Meade and Jason Meade's lawyer are alleging that Casey Goodson was pointing his gun at Jason Meade, for which there's no evidence of this claim. But what we do know is that the final coroner's report showed and concluded that Casey Goodson, get this, Casey Goodson was shot 6 times in the back. 6 times in the back. And the coroner ruled this as a homicide. So this begs the question, if Casey Goodson was alleged to have been pointing his gun at Jason Meade, why then was he shot 6 times in the back? 6 times in the back does not make sense according to the story of Jason Meade. Now, the FBI are investigating whether Jason Meade violated Casey Goodson's civil rights. The U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of Ohio has said to be investigating or investigated the shooting, but as yet there's been no charges filed against Jason Meade. Now there are a couple of family attorneys for the family of Casey Goodson who want immediate charges filed against Jason Meade, and they want Jason Meade indicted, presumably for murder. Now, what there has been over the last few weeks, and there's been continued over the last few weeks, hasn't made any media really in the US, is the fact there's been ongoing protests on behalf of Casey Goodson, led by his mother, Tamara Payne. There's been a number of protests, and the family and protesters basically want the authorities to take into account these protests, and they want Jason Meade charged for murder. Now, this case really for me is illuminating, about the status quo in the United States. Because when you look at the facts in this case, it really begs the question. You're wondering, why hasn't Jason Meade already been arrested? How has he even been allowed to have walked free? He's sitting at home. He's a free man right now. And actually, Jason Meade, who was apparently a 17-year veteran, apparently he's now resigned from his position, citing grounds of disability. In fact, he's retired. He retired as of July this year on the grounds of disability. Now, what we also know about Jason Meade is the following. Jason Meade, on the day that he killed Casey Goodson, which many people are alleging is straight up murder and was an ambush, Jason Meade was part of a task force which was said to have been investigating other serious criminals. Now, Casey Goodson had no serious criminal history. Casey Goodson was not the intended target of Jason Meade's investigations. Now, there's no body cam that was worn in this situation. There's no other witnesses to really back up what Jason Meade's lawyer is saying, which is Casey Goodson pointed the gun at him. We do know that Casey Goodson, the young man who lost his life and was killed, Casey Goodson was shot walking into his grandmother's house, apparently in the doorway, and this happened in front of his siblings. So this will have thoroughly traumatized his entire family. And I want to stress this again. Casey Goodson was carrying a Subway sandwich when he was killed, and had been coming back from a dentist appointment. And I want to pose another question here. Right? Now, Casey Goodson had a legal firearms license. Now, if you have a legal firearms license, and you're about to step into your own home, and you're a black man in the state of Ohio with a deeply racist history, why the hell are you going to point your gun at a police officer? Jason Meade and his lawyer are saying that Casey Goodson pointed the gun at Jason Meade. This makes no sense. It makes no sense on the grounds that Casey Goodson was shot 6 times in the back. 6 times is shooting to kill. It's not like he was shot once or twice to incapacitate him or to alleviate the threat. Casey Goodson was shot walking into his grandmother's house 6 times in the back, and it looks to me like he was murdered in cold blood. And I wonder, when they really dig into the history of Jason Meade, what they might find. And again, you want to emphasize here, Jason Meade was apparently a 17-year veteran on the force. So all this idea that he was somehow inexperienced or whatever, all this goes out the window. But the key thing here for me to really emphasize is the fact that, Casey Goodson is said to be pointing the gun at Jason Meade, but yet he's shot 6 times in the back, walking into his own home. No one in their right mind is going to point a gun at a police officer. And why the hell was Jason Meade basically stalking this young black man back to his house? Casey Goodson was not the intended target of any investigation. He had no criminal history. This was a young man who was on the way back from a dentist appointment, entering his family home. Now, I want to read you a quote from Sean Walton, who is one of the family lawyers for the family of Casey Goodson. Sean Walton said earlier on this year, and I quote, "Jason Meade is a threat to the community and public safety. Each and every day he continues to be free. Jason Meade is a threat to the community and public safety. Each and every day he continues to be free." So there's another question here, a very legitimate question about public safety. You know, even if you take the view that this was a momentous mistake, right? Even if you, for argument's sake, assume there was nothing nefarious regarding the motives of Jason Meade, if someone on the police force is that incompetent, if a human being, regardless of the fact he's a police officer, is that incompetent, you can go and shoot someone in cold blood who had done nothing wrong, walking into their own home. How on earth is this person walking free? You know, this happened in December last year. Why are there no charges against Jason Meade as it stands? Why is it taking continued protests led by Casey Goodson's mother, Tamala Payne, and the protesters? Why is it down to this? Why is it down to a couple of private prosecutors now pushing for charges for Jason Meade? How on earth is this the case? And where are the political class that made much of talking about ridding the country from institutional racism at a state level, at a federal level, what have you? There's virtually complete silence on this case. And actually, from what I can see, the protests in Columbus, Ohio are big, and they are ongoing, and they are continuing. This was a high profile case, and yet it's not getting high profile headlines. It's getting some local headlines, but no high profile headlines. You know, Casey Goodson was 23 years old. A kid, really, you know, a young man, just a kid, 23 years old. Didn't really get to live his life to the full extent yet, you know. 23 years old, shot 6 times in the back, walking into your grandmother's house, holding nothing but a Subway sandwich. You know, a lot of the press and a lot of the naysayers and what have you, they wanted to make a lot about the fact that Casey Goodson was armed. But Casey Goodson had a legal firearms license and was a legal carrier of a firearm. You know, this is the law. He committed no crime, had no criminal history, and it's a fallacy that they're saying that he pointed his gun at Jason Meade and yet he took 6 bullets in the back. That doesn't make any logical sense whatsoever. And so I don't know what the official investigators are really doing with this case. I mean, I know enough about the history of the state of Ohio to hasten a guess as to why this hasn't gone anywhere. But I hope to God this case gets more public support, more momentum, because it seems to me Jason Meade should be charged, he should be indicted, he should ultimately end up behind bars, he should be held accountable, and he certainly shouldn't be walking free. You know, no arrest has been made in this case, no charges, no arrest, nothing. And also, you know, Jason Meade retired in July on the grounds of disability. I'm not a legal expert, but does his retiring on the grounds of disability, does that somehow play into how any future case against him might be judged? I'm not really sure. What is the full history of Jason Meade? You know, is this the only time in his long career that he's acted in this fashion? Are there other victims at the hands of Jason Meade? Former Franklin County Sheriff Deputy Jason Meade. You know, have Franklin County Sheriff's Office been investigated? Are there other cases you guys can tell me about from this office or in the same area in Columbus, Ohio? I want to know, but for sure we need to keep an eye on this case, because it seems to me this case is being brushed under the rug, and there's something particularly evil and wicked about a system which allows somebody to be shot 6 times in the back, walking into their own home in front of their siblings and in front of their grandmother. This is a incredible state of affairs, and I'm surprised actually. I mean, of course there's all sorts of cases all across the United States where this kind of thing happens, but there should be more made about this case. There really should, and I hope there's justice for the family of Casey Goodson. You know, more power, much respect to Tamala Payne, his mother, and all the people, all of the protesters doing their very best to keep this case in the spotlight. I hope that everybody in Columbus, Ohio joins the family of Casey Goodson, supports his mum, Tamala Payne, in their quest for justice, to get justice for Casey Goodson, 23 years old, in his prime of life, and had his life cruelly taken from him by an officer who, by all accounts, murdered Casey Goodson in cold blood. Sounds like an ambush to me. Of course, this is my personal opinion. This is how it looks to me. But this looks like another ambush. And I've seen a lot of cases like this when looking at the United States. 6 times shot in the back, shot dead, walking into your own home. That should be a case closed. What else is there really to investigate? Even if Jason Meade is just purely the most incompetent officer ever, and actually I submit that there's more to this case than that. There's more to this case. But even if you just assume he's massively incompetent, how the hell does somebody like this have a badge? How the hell do they have a firearm? How on earth are they part of some special task force investigating serious criminals when you're going to go and murder the wrong man? You're going to go and kill the wrong man. Casey Goodson had done nothing wrong. And it seems to me his only crime was being young, being black, and driving his own car. Someone fill me in on some any other points to this case that I might have missed. Let me know what you think about this case. I'll check the comments on this video, so please fill me in on anything I might have missed regarding the case of Casey Goodson and former Franklin County Sheriff Jason Meade regarding him. He's now retired on disability grounds. Is he ever going to really face the music? Is he ever going to face accountability? Let's see. But more power to Tamala Payne and her family in their efforts to keep the spotlight and keep the focus on the pursuit of justice for their loved one, Casey Goodson. So let me know what you think about this case. Get in touch. I appreciate you tuning in as ever. Please remember to sign up to the website, African Diaspora News channel, support the network, like, subscribe, share the videos, tell a friend to tell a friend. Thank you very much for tuning in. This is the African Diaspora News channel. My name is Richard Sudan, and we will see you next time.
250 years of slavery, 100 years of Jim Crow, sharecropping, the Ku Klux Klan, lynchings, bombings, mass incarceration, the separation and destruction of the black family. All of that has had an effect on our mind. Our mind needs to be decolonized. We today are experiencing mental slavery, not physical slavery as once our ancestors had to endure. In my book, 7 Steps to Decolonize the Mind, we take you through every step to start releasing the chains that's on your mind. He or she who controls the mind control the person. It is in a vested interest of the white supremacist system to keep your mind bogged down in a mental slavery, throwing entertainment, throwing drugs, throwing alcohol, anything they can at you to keep you bogged down. You got to free yourself from mental slavery by purchasing our book, 7 Steps to Decolonize the Mind, today on Amazon. Make sure you share it with your family, share it with your friends. Everyone can benefit from decolonizing the mind, because once your mind is decolonized, you will never be put to sleep again.
Hello, everyone. Please make sure you subscribe to the African Diaspora News Channel app on these platforms.